All right. Today's topic is on cost allocation. This is from chapter 7 of your Accounting 6302 course. And I've selected some sample problems here that we'll go over. The first one is 7-25. And we've got the grade 8 glassworks, and they've got two producing departments and one support department. And they want to allocate the overhead assigned to the support department. Um, the two producing departments each have their own overhead assigned, 150,000, 250,000, but then 74,000 is assigned to the support department, and they want to allocate that to the producing department. So why? First question is, why would they want to do that? Because the support department doesn't generate any revenues, and so we want to allocate the cost of the support department based on some kind of cost driver that makes sense on utilization, and so that we make sure that all of our costs are being covered when we bill client, when we bid on projects, bill clients, etc. All right. So they've given us four potential ways to allocate this: employee headcount, space used, productive capacity, and then the 3-year average of S1 output used on this. And so the first one, A, that they ask us to do is based on employee headcount. So we've got 60 employees in P1, 20 employees in P2. All total, that would be 80 employees. So P1 is going to have 75% of the employees. P2 is going to have 25% of the employees. So we take the 74,000, multiply that by the 75%, the number of employees, and that's going to be 55,500 will be P1's share of S1's costs, and then P2 is going to be 74,000 times 0.25 or 25%. Will be 18,500. Now make sure you're answering the question that is asked. It says determine the total estimated overhead costs for each of the producing departments after allocating. So we need to put the direct overhead, directly allocated overhead here as well. So P1 is 150,000. P2 is 250,000. So that's going to be 268,500, and this will be 205,500. Okay, so that takes care of A. And then B asks us to do it based on the square feet used. And it just so happens that it's going to be the reverse allocation for the service department because we have 2,000 square feet in P1 and 6,000 square feet in P2. So we're going to have 74,000 times 0.25 here, and we know that's 18,500. We don't forget our 150,000. So that'll be 168,500. For P2, we'll have the 74,000 times 0.75. We know that's going to be 55,500. Add the 250,000 that is directly traced to P2, Add that up, we get 305,500 for the amount of square foot used. And then C, ask us to do it in productive capacity. So this is 50,000 and 75,000. That works out to 40% and 60%. So we'll have 74,000 times 40% and 74,000 times 60%. We get 29,600 here. And 44,400. If you want to check to see that it doesn't mean you did it right, but if the numbers don't add up, it means you did it wrong. Add these two together, you would get 74,000. That's correct. Okay, so we add the 150,000 now here and the 250,000 here. $294,400 and 179,600. And then finally, the fourth way they ask us to do it, D, is by the 3-year average percentage of S1 output. And so that is just the reverse of what we did before. It'll be 60% and 40%. So 74,000 times 0.6 is going to be 44,400. Add the 150. We get 194,400 for P1. That'll be 29,600. Add the 250,000. Will be 279,600. All right, then part 2 of this says, which of the proposed allocation bases would you recommend and why? I would use the last one, the 3-year average percentage used, because it's based on usage. So that one's pretty straightforward why I would choose that one. All right, the next one I chose is 7-26. This is cost allocation in healthcare. This time we have 2 service departments. We have a cleaning department and a central kitchen. The cleaning department annual operating cost is $90,000. The central kitchen is $120,000. And then we have the allocation base. And on this one, part 1 says to do it the direct method, which is the number of residents. The management of NCI currently allocates kitchen cleaning department costs based on the number of residents in each home. Determine the amount of service department costs assigned to each of the homes based on this allocation base. Round percentages to 2 decimals in your calculation. Okay, so we've got this case, since we're going to use the same base, we can add these two together. So we've got 90. This is 7-26. So we can add the 90,000 and the 120,000 together. That gives us 210,000. The nursing home has 6 residents. The retirement home has 4 residents. So that'll be a 60-40 split. So 210,000 times 0.6 is 126,000 for the nursing home. And the retirement home has 4 residents. And that will be 84,000. And again, add that up, see that it comes, add these two up, see that it comes to the 210. And chances are you did it right. Okay. Okay, then part B asks us to do the step method. And the step method, we see that it's a number of square feet of space because the cleaning department obviously is going to benefit the central kitchen, right? And so we're going to allocate these based on a 2-step process. We'll allocate the cleaning department first to kitchen, nursing home, and retirement home. And then once we get the kitchen, we will allocate the kitchen total. We'll allocate that based on the number of residents. So our first allocation, we add up, this is part 2. We add up the 1,000 plus the 2,000 plus the 3,000 gives us 6,000. We have 1,000 divided by 6,000 is 1.6667. Then we have 2 divided by 6,000. Oops, got the decimal point wrong. 0.1667. And that's just going to be 2 times that. So that's going to be 33333. Add on and on. And then finally 3,000. 3,000 divided by 6,000 is going to be 0.5. All right, so now our first step in the process, we will allocate to the kitchen. So that's going to be the $90,000, right? And 90,000, I'm sorry, the cleaning department will allocate to the kitchen. 90,000 times 0.16667 will be 15,000. And then the nursing home will get 2 times that, 90,000 times 0.3333 is a third, or 30,000. And then 90,000 times 0.5 is going to be 45,000. Okay. So the nursing home already has 30,000 from the cleaning department, and the retirement home has 45,000 from the cleaning department. And now we have to allocate not only the 120,000 from the central kitchen, but also the 15,000. So 120 plus 15 gives us 135. Okay, and again, we're going to have 60%. So 135 times 0.6 will be 81,000. And then 135 times 0.4 is going to be 54,000. Add these up, and we get 111 here and 99 here. Add those two together, we get 210,000. So we have probably done that correct. It's not a guarantee, but it's very likely, right? Okay, so there is our answer for part 2. And then it asks us, why might they prefer this allocation method? Because certainly the kitchen is going to use the services of the cleaning department, and so that needs to be taken into account as we're allocating these costs. All right, the next one I chose is number 7-28 from your book. Okay. And 7-28 says home life insurance company has 2 service departments, actuarial and premium rating, and 2 production departments, advertising and sales. The distribution of each service department's efforts and percentages to the other departments are shown below. And so the direct operating costs for the department include both variable and fixed costs. Are actuarial 80,000, premium rating 15,000, advertising 60,000, and sales 40,000. And number 1 says, part 1 says, determine the total cost of the advertising department and sales departments after using the direct method of allocation. So this is 7-28. Okay, so we see advertising is 10% and sales is 10%. So the actuarial will be split up 50-50. Remember, we don't use the service departments when we do the direct allocation method. So we eliminate the actuarial and premium rating. We've got advertising and sales 50%. And so that 80,000 will be 40,000 and 40,000. That's the actuarial part of it. And then the premium is 2060. So that adds up to 80. 20 divided by 80 is 25%. 60 divided by 80 is 75%. And so 25% of 15,000 we get 3,750, and 75%, 15,000 is 11,250. Don't forget to add the advertising and sales. So advertising is 60,000 as a standalone, and sales is 40,000. Add these up, and we get 250 there, 91,250, and here we get 750, 103, 750 for that. Okay, so that is part one. Part two then uses the step method. The step method, we're going to use the actuarial first. We'll do that, and premium rating uses 80% of actuarial. So 80% of 80,000 is 64,000. 10% of 80,000 is 8,000, and 10% of 80,000 is 8,000. Now we have to add the 15,000 to that. That'll give us 79,000. That now goes just like we did before, except it's 79,000. So we've got 20 and 60, which is 25% and 75%. So 79,000 times 25% is 19,750, and 79,000 times 75% is 59,250. Don't forget their direct cost of 60 and 40. Now we can add these up. 179 here, and whoops, I got an extra zero in there. Bad me. Okay, that's going to be a 7. Okay, so 7, so that's 250 still. 7 carry 1, 9 is 10. So 107, 250. And on this one, 87, 750. All right, that looks right. And then finally, they ask us to do the reciprocal method. Now, don't get in too big of a panic. I'm not going to ask you to do the reciprocal method on an exam. But the way this works is that we go service 1, which is the actuarial, is going to equal 80,000. That's the direct cost plus 20%. So 0.2 times S2, right? And then S2 is going to equal 15,000 plus 0.8 of S1. All right, so now we've got 2 equations and 2 unknowns. We just plug in this into this term right here. And so we get S1 equals 80,000 plus 0.2 times 15,000 plus 0.8 S1. We then carry the S2 or 0.2 through there, so S1 equals 80,000 plus 0.2 would be 3,000 That takes care of the 15,000 term, plus 0.2 would be 0.16 S1. Let me check that just to be sure. 0.8 there, 0.2 times. Yep, 0.16. That's correct. All right. Now we get the like terms over here, so we subtract that. So that'll be 0.84 S1 equals 80,000 plus 3,000. So that term is gone. So S1 is going to be 83,000. That's those two added together, divided by 0.84. And 83.84 divide will be 98. I'm going to round that up to 810, 809 and 52 cents. Round that up to 10. So that's what S1 is. We now plug that back into our equation for S2. S2 is going to equal S2 is going to equal, oh, there it is, 15,000 plus 0.8 times 98, 810 equals 15,000 plus will be 79,048. That equals 94,048. So now we've got 10%. So the advertising is going to be 10% of S1. So 9,881. 10% of 9882 will be 20% of this 94,048. Is 18,000. I'll round that up to 810, 809.6. Round that up. And then of course, the advertising itself gets its 60,000. And so we add those up 1, 9, 6, 8, 88, 69. And then the sales is going to be the 10%. So that's the same 9881. And then 60% of the 94,048 is 56,429. And then it has its own 40,000 directly. And so that's going to be a 0. That'll be a 1. That'll be a 3. and 106,310 for the using the reciprocal method. All right. So you can see that the final answer is not all that different, 106,310 from the step method, 107,250. And so it all becomes a cost benefit analysis for you. All right, so that's 728. Do 729 is pretty much the same thing. Again, I won't ask you to do the reciprocal method on the exam. You can see it takes a little bit of time. And obviously 90 minutes is not forever when you do the exam. Okay, so 729. Same basic setup that we had before, except now the service departments each use 10% of the other service departments. And we don't know how much the P1 uses. Well, it turns out if that's the only department, it has to be 40% or it has to be 60%, right? Because 10% and 30% adds up to 40. So that's got to be 60. And P2 is 10 and 20. So P2 will be 70% of S1. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that in there. S1, S2, S1, S2, P1, P2. So this is 10%. This is unknown. This is not used. P1 is unknown, and this is 30. We know this has to add up to 100. So 30 and 10 is 40. That means this has to be 60. Likewise, this one isn't used. This is 10%. This one is given as 20%. This one is unknown. 10 and 20 is 30. So this has to be 70 because this line across must add up to 100. Okay. So determine the total cost of P1 and P2 using the direct method. So now using the direct method, we've got 20% divided by 90% because we don't count the S1s here. So that's 90% total. So we're going to have S1 is 180,000 times 2 ninths, right? Just knock that off. The 20 and 70 is 90, so 2 ninths. And that will be 40,000. From S1. From S2, we're going to have 60 and 30 is going to be 90 again. And so that's 60,000. Only this time it will be times 6 ninths, right? 60 and 30 is 90. So 60,000 divide by 9, multiply by 6, and we get 40,000 there. And P1 has its own 50,000. So that comes to a total of 130,000 for P2. We're going to have 180,000 times 7 ninths. And that will be 140,000 Then we will also have the 60,000, and that will be by 3/9 or a third, which is 20,000. And then it has its own 120,000. So that's 140 and 140 is 280,000 using the direct method. Then number 2 asks us to do the step method. And you usually like to allocate to the service department that uses the most. In this case, it doesn't happen that way. So I'm going to do S1. I'm going to allocate it to S2 first. So S1 is going to be 180,000, and that'll be times 10% is 18,000. S2 will get 20, or I'm sorry, P1 will get 20%, so that'll be 36,000, just twice that. And P2 will get 70%, 180 will be 126,000. Okay, so S1 has been allocated. Now we have to add the S2, which is the 60,000. That gives us 78,000. And now we go back to these 2/9 and 7/9. No, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, 6/9 and 3/9. Right. 6/9 and 3/9. So 78,000. Whoops. Divide that by 9, multiply it by 6, and we get 52,000. 78,000. And we get 26,000. I'll take an intermediate step here. That's 88,000. 152,000. Don't forget its direct cost of 50,000 and 120,000. So 138,000 for that one, 272,000 for Department P2. And then finally, the third one, it asks us to do the reciprocal. So S1 equals 180,000 plus 10%, 0.1 of S2. And S2 is going to be 60,000 plus 0.1 of S1. We just stick that into the S2, so we get S1 equals 180,000 plus 0.1 times 60,000 plus 0.1 S1. Okay, drive that 0.1 through there. We get S1 equals 180,000 plus 6,000. That takes care of that. And this will be 0.01 of S1. All right. Okay. So now we bring that to both sides. We get 0.99 S1 equals 186,000 S1. S1 is equal to 186 divided by 0.99 equals 187.87, round that up to 9. Plug that 187,879 into the S2 equation. We get S2 equals 60,000 plus 0.1 S1, so that'll be 18,788. Again, rounding up for that equals 78,788. Okay, now we go back and do this, the direct method. So P1 is going to be 2/9 of 187,879. It'll be 41,751 and 187,879 will be 146, 128. Now we do the S2, which is the 78,788. And that'll be 6/9, which will be 52,525. And 3/9 will be 26,263. And this is an interim number. Because we also have to add on the 50,000 direct cost here and the 120,000 direct cost here. $144,276 and $292,391. All right, so that is the reciprocal method. Again, you won't see that on the exam, just the step and the direct method. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we'll move on to joint products. This is exercise 7-31. We've got the Tango Company. produces joint products M, N, and T in a joint process. This information concerns a batch produced in April at a joint cost of $120,000. How much of the joint cost should be allocated to each joint product using the net realizable value method? Okay. So M is going to be 160 minus the 10 total separable cost. So the net realizable value is 150,000. N is going to be 140,000, the sales value, minus 10,000. Should put a bracket there. Whoops, not showing up. There we go. And that's going to equal 130,000 net realizable value for N. And then T is going to be 25,000 minus 5,000 gives us 20,000. We add this all up. We've got 150 plus 130 is 280 plus 20 equals 300,000. So M, the amount allocated to M will be 150,000 divided by 300,000 times the joint cost of 120. That'll be 60,000 will be allocated to M. N will have 130,000 divided by 300,000 times 120,000. That'll be 52,000. And T will be 20,000 divided by 300,000 times 120,000. That will be 8,000. And we add that up, 60, 52, and 8 gives us 120. That's the 120 we were dealing with, so that is probably correct. Okay. And I think we've got room here on this page for number 32. Joint products. Arkansas Corporation manufactured liquid chemicals. A and B from a joint process. It allocates joint costs on the basis of sales value at split off. Processing 5,000 gallons of product A and 1,000 gallons of product B to the split off point is $5,600. The sales value at split off is $2 per gallon for product A. So that will be 2 times 5,000 equals 10,000 for product A. And $30 per gallon for product B. So that'll be 30, and that was 1,000 is 30,000. Okay, so our total value at split off is 40,000. So this is going to be 25%. This is going to be 75%. Um, Product B requires additional separable processing beyond the split off point for $2.50 before it can be sold at a price of $34 per gallon. What is the company's cost to produce 1,000 gallons of product B? Okay, so what we're going to have there is going to be um, let's see, what was the cost? 5,600, right? Yeah, 5,600 times 0.75, right? 30 and 10 is 40, so this is 75%. And that's 4,200. Don't forget the additional processing cost of $2.50 per gallon. So that, remember, they do 1,000 gallons, so that's 2,500. So $6,700 is the company's cost. That's a six to produce 1,000 gallons of product B. All right. And then the last one I have for you in this group is problem number 7-42, joint products. So we've got Choi Company manufactures 2 skincare lotions, Smooth Skin and Silken Skin, from a joint process. The joint process costs are $420,000 for a standard production run. That generates 180,000 pints of smooth skin and 120,000 pints of silken skin. Smooth skin sells for $2.40 a pint, while silken skin sells for $3.90 a pint. Assuming that both products are sold at the split off point, how much of the joint cost of each product is allocated to smooth skin using the relative sales value method? Now, the relative sales, the relative sales value method is just like what we did before. So the relative sales value method, we have 180 pints, and that sells for $2.40. $432,000. We have 120 pints times 390. That's going to be 468. Add those two together. We get 900,000. So 420,000 times 432 divided by 900 is 48%. So 201,600 for smooth skin, and we'll have the 420,000 times 468 divided by 900 That's 52%. And that's 218,400. That's the relative sales value method of splitting that up. If no separable costs are incurred after the split off point, how much of the joint cost of each production run is allocated to Silcom's skin using the physical measures method? Okay, so in 2, the physical measures method, we've got 180 and 120. Equals 300. And so silken skin is the 120. So 420,000 times 120 divided by 300, and that's going to be 40%. Will be 168. That's for the silken skin. I'm going to go ahead and do the smooth skin. So that'll be 420 times 60%. Be 252,000 for the smooth skin. And then 3, ask us if separable processing costs beyond the split off point are $1.40 per pint for smooth skin and 90 cents per pint for silken skin, how much of the joint production run is allocated using the net realizable value method? Okay, so now we've got 240 is the sales price of smooth skin minus the $1.40 is $1 times 180 units is 180,000 net realizable value. And for the silken skin, we had 90 cents, so that's 390 minus 90 is $3 times 120,000 units is 360,000. Okay, so using the net realizable value, this is going to be 1/3 and 2/3. That adds up to 540. So 180 divided by 540 times 420 equals oops. Will be 140,000 will be assigned to smooth skin. And 360 divided by 540 times 420 is going to be 280,000 to silken skin. And then number 4 says, this is kind of a trick question. Says if separable processing costs beyond the split off point are $1.40 per pint and 90 cents a pint. How much of the joint cost of each production run is allocated to smooth skin using the physical measures method, right? So the physical measures method was what we did up here. Yeah, there's the 60 and 40. So that would be number 2. Yeah. So the physical measures method, 420 times 40% was 168, and 420 times 60%. And they ask us for smooth skin, so it would be this 258. So the separable cost in this problem is just a red herring to get you to bite and try to do more work than is actually required. All right, so that takes care of allocation processes, and good luck on your homework.